Good afternoon. My name is Jenny Ray Clay, and I am the Executive Director of the Social Equity Council. And I want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon for Lunch and Learn regarding a recently released notice of availability of funds for grant-making opportunities in the state of Connecticut related to the Social Equity Council's reinvestment plan. The folks that are on this call today will hear a little bit more information about the NOFA. We'll give you an opportunity to ask any questions that you have about the process, about the application, about the distribution of funds. And I want to thank everyone that is joining us today for your interest in our program. And I believe this is interactive, so folks will have an opportunity to raise their hand throughout the presentation. So if you have any specific questions, I can just take those and you can go ahead and just raise your hand or put your question in the chat and someone will read that, or the Q&A section, they'll read that and we'll be able to respond to your question. So to get started, why don't we find out who's in the room with us today? Will folks go and introduce yourselves and just tell us a little bit about the organization that you're with or the name of the organization you're with? So why don't we start with Ms. Santiago? And I see
Hello?
you're, hi, how are you?
Oh, hi. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for hosting this. We were anxiously awaiting. I'm Almirka Santiago from Hispanic Federation, and we have our office in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay, it would be really nice if you guys turned on your cameras so that we could see a face with the name. Thank you, Ms. Santiago. How about Annie Troy? We have Annie. Okay. How about Ashley Gordiano? I don't know if people are able to unmute themselves or, there we go.
There we go. Thank you. Good
Hi.
morning, good afternoon. Ashley Gordiano with United Way of Coastal and Western Connecticut. And we unfortunately don't have the option to turn off our cameras. That's why you're not able to see our faces today.
Okay. Thank you for that. And then we have Ms. Gordon, Elsa Gordon.
Hello, yes.
Hi.
Hi, Alyssa Gordon from the Hartford Foundation for Public Giving.
Hi. And Joan Cruz.
Hi, hello, this is Joan Cruz. I'm from the Hispanic Health Council.
Okay. Where are you located, Joan?
We're located in Hartford.
Okay. I'm going to circle back to Annie Troy. I see your hand is raised, so I assume you've been able to unmute
I got
yourself.
my mute off. Thank you. I'm with Hispanic Federation.
Okay, thank you. And Lauren Lyons, sorry.
Hi, Lauren Lyons, Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut.
Great. And Megan Brown.
Hi, Megan Brown, also of Community Foundation of Eastern Connecticut.
Okay, fantastic. So I just want to take a second before we move on and introduce the team from the Social Equity Council. Joining me today is Vera Lembrick. Vera is our reinvestment program manager. Arlene Galindo, who is our outreach program manager. Jennifer Stevens, who's our associate accountant, and Anna Rosa, who is our administrative assistant. So going forward, this is most likely the team that you will be working with. We have a presentation today, so I will ask that we get that presentation started. And I see, Vera, can you please monitor the Q&A for questions? Thank you.
Do you see the screen?
We can. So this is, as I mentioned, a notice of funds availability for reinvestment dollars that the Social Equity Council will be putting back into communities that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs. So just a little bit about the agenda. I've already taken care of the introduction. We'll talk a little bit about violence prevention, which is sort of the umbrella of programs that we will be making these funds available to. I'll talk a little bit about the NOFA itself. I'll talk a little bit about the timeline that we'll be working with and questions and answers. And then the next steps and closing remarks. So I actually, can we go to the next slide before we go to this slide? Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about the NOFA, then I'll tell you how we're looking to spend the money. So the Social Equity Council is responsible for making sure that the folks who have been in communities that have been impacted disproportionately by the war on drugs have an opportunity to participate equitably in the adult use cannabis industry. So we're doing that a couple of ways. One, we are working with people who want to own and operate cannabis-related businesses. We're working in communities that have been disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs through this NOFA as an example. And we're also working on workforce development efforts so that folks who are from disproportionately impacted communities that want to work in the cannabis industry but may not want to own a business in the cannabis industry have an opportunity to do that. So the purpose of this NOFA is specifically for making sure that we are working and providing opportunities for grassroots programs in the disproportionately impacted communities to have immediate relief, so assistance in helping to keep those programs going in the community. So we'll go back to the first slide, if that's okay. All right, and so the way that we're going to do that is we have earmarked $22 million to go towards those programs that grassroots local organizations are running to give them relief. So these programs are around, and we wanted to make this as broad as we can because we also know that there's a lot of programs out there that we don't know about that might be really, really good programs. So if we kind of really were focused on a title and a criteria, we didn't want to leave out something that would be really great for the community to continue and for us to provide assistance to. So primarily, though, we are looking at, again, very broadly, programs that strengthen families and create opportunities to provide additional enhancement to grassroots programs and services, enrichment programs for young people that expose them to workforce and life skills and alternative activities that they may be engaging in at this time because there's not programs available to them or programs that are addressing their most immediate needs. And then programs that support formerly incarcerated individuals and their families and helping to help the formerly incarcerated to become constructive members of the community and to reunite with their families in a very holistic way. So we can go to the next slide after that. So the funding, no, go up, thank you. So the funding distribution for the $22 billion was released, the overall picture was released in a NOFA on March 14th. And we are looking for, and we've done this before, so some of you may have applied to us before, and some of you may be current partners of us right now. We use a third party to distribute funds in the community. And so we ran a pilot program last year. The pilot program went very well, and we decided to use that same model with some tweaking to get these funds out into the community. So this time around, for the $22 million of this NOFA, the grant managers will be awarded funds from the adult use cannabis tax. And it also comes from licensing revenues, application fees. So we have a large pot of money right now because when the market or the industry became legal, there was funds that people were using and paying to become qualified as a cannabis owner. So there was there's application fees, there was licensing fees, there were conversion fees, and all of those funds came to the Social Equity Council for reinvestment. So this time in our pilot program, we did like I don't know, it might've been like 9-month, 12-month distribution of funds. This round of funding is going to be a 3-year contract budget period. The council will award grants to third-party grant makers to administer community investment grants in 36 specific communities, so 36 designated disproportionately impacted areas throughout the state. And we'll tell you right in our next bullets what those 6 regions are. The last time we did the funding to a specific DIA, a specific municipality, 6 municipalities in the state, now we're doing this on a regional basis. So for the Bridgeport-Stanford area, The towns that can apply to this grant maker will be Bridgeport, Stamford, Norwalk, Ansonia, Derby, and Stratford. Only programs that that exist in those municipalities can apply for funding. Your organization doesn't have to be located there, but you have to be serving those DIA communities and census tracts. In New London, Norwich, it's New London, Griswold, Groton, Norwich, Killingly, and Wyndham. In the greater Hartford area, so we split greater Hartford, you'll see there's two Hartfords. So we have the greater Hartford area, which is Enfield, New Britain, Manchester, South Windsor, Vernon, and the capital area, which consists of Hartford, Bloomfield, East Hartford, West Hartford, and Windsor. In the New Haven area, it's New Haven, Brantford, Meriden, Middletown, Hamden, West Haven, Wallingford. And in the Waterbury area, it's Bristol, Danbury, Plainville, Southington, Torrington, Waterbury, and Winchester. So, and again, we've mentioned that, these funds will be used to serve folks in these communities and enhance these communities as we are required to do so by the adult use cannabis law. We're going to go to the next. Thank you. So what is a DIA? A DIA is a census tract in the state that has a historically high conviction rate for drug-related offenses and a population that experiences poverty greater than other parts of the state and other municipalities. All of this information that's here is on our website. This is just kind of the context. I'm not going to go over all that with you because the map has been set, the DIAs have been marked, and so kind of how we get there and got there is not relevant at this point, but we'll move on to the next slide. So an eligible grant maker. The grant making agency must have 5 or more years of grant making experience, and they must be headquartered in the state of Connecticut. The grant managers also must demonstrate that they have ability to work in urban communities, that they have the ability to work with diverse groups, that they are experienced in managing large-scale programs, and they have knowledge and access to essential resources needed to successfully carry out this contract within the communities that we have identified. And also experience providing technical assistance, training, program management, program development, and compliance with applicable state, federal rules and regulations. In addition, we also, in this slide, we're speaking about helping these companies and these organizations that are applying for these funds, helping them to grow. These funds will not last forever, but they are an opportunity to give these programs the relief that they may need to focus more on growing the organization, growing the program, and serving more people, as opposed to really trying to figure out, where the money is coming from. We know that there are people who work a second job or a second part-time job or a second full-time job just to pay for the programs because they're not aware of how to find funds, or they may not be a 501c3 and not understanding in this program, you don't have to be a 501c3, but you must have a fiduciary partner. So a 501c3 who will take on the fiduciary responsibility for the grant and the program. So we can move on to the next slide. So for the grant makers, eligible use of grant administrative funds, you can only use these funds for administrative costs. And we'll have to decide, we say between 3 and 7% of the grant would go to the grant manager or grant maker for admin. And you can use it for things like contract closing fees, legal expenses related to grant administration. We know that with the amount of money, you are most likely going to need to have a single audit. So you want to put that, you want to budget for that when you're putting your budgets together. You can also use the funds to hire staff related to the programs that are going to, so if you're going to hire a grant manager, you can hire staff related to the grant management of these funds. Things that you cannot use the funds for as a grant manager. So you can't use the funds to create a loan program, whether it's to create one or to replenish one. And again, these funds are not, they're not for you, the grant maker. They are for the community. You are the administrator of the fund. So if you have your own loan fund that you currently have, you can't put these funds in there because they're not for your organization to, create or replenish your loan. You can't use it for any lobbying activities. You cannot use it to pay taxes. You cannot use it to subsidize the business, refinancing or restructuring existing debt, no relocation of your business or any other business, no personal loans, no personal needs such as child support, rent, or utilities. That's even when, for programs that may want to do that, you cannot, and that's not part of the criteria. You cannot use it for any legal activities, and you cannot use it to purchase any type of vehicle or lease any type of vehicle. Neither you nor the grant recipients or the grant applicants are allowed to use these funds in any of these ways. The grant manager match, there is not a match required for this. Sometimes there is a, says you have to have a one-to-one. In this case, there is no match required for these funds. So let's go into the application process. So basically we have on our website, we have the NOFA, the announcement, and we have a grant maker questionnaire. In that questionnaire, we ask you to provide some supporting documents. So like I said, you had to kind of look at the NOFA to know that to be here today. So you have probably seen the questionnaire and the supporting documents that are required to be submitted when you submit your questionnaire. So what's going to happen after you submit your documents and the questionnaire, our staff, my team, is going to go through the questionnaires and the supporting documents. We're going to rate and rank those applications, and then we will be making a recommendation to the council in very short order as to who we believe will be the best grant makers in the community. Once the council votes on the recommendations, we will notify the grant managers of your selection in writing. We will also notify those folks that we have not decided to work with. We will notify you in writing as well. So speaking of a timeline, I mentioned that the timeline would go pretty quickly. I hope everybody can see this, but this is all of this information is information in the NOFA. So long story short, you have kind of read through this. So key dates to remember. The deadline for submitting the application or the questionnaire is April 9th, 11:59 p.m. We will then take some time to go through those questionnaires and the supporting documents, and we plan to make a recommendation to the council by April 17th. And then we will begin immediately going into the contract. So we will be discussing with those that are selected the scope of work. And we'll begin negotiating that and engaging in conversations around the scope of work, around the budget, and all of the other necessary information that will lead to a contract for managing these funds. And then we hope to be able to award the contracts or award the funds directly to the grant managers between May 22nd and May 25th. So I'm going to stop right here, and I want to see if anyone has any questions that I can answer for you at this time. And we have Vera, you have a question?
Yes, I just wanted to let Anna know that the participants are saying that they cannot turn on their cameras. They must have been coded that way when the webinar was set up. So,
Okay,
all right.
thank you.
Mhm.
I don't know if we have an opportunity, but if we can get folks, I think their mics are working.
Yep.
That'd be great. If we could, I don't know if we can do that right now to get the cameras on, but we can circle back. Okay. Any other questions in the Q&A?
No,
Okay. Were there any questions at all?
no,
Okay.
not so far.
Okay,
See if we
great.
have any hands raised.
Okay, Ashley, your hand is raised.
Thanks, Jenny Ray. This is all really helpful. Just two quick questions. The first is there an amount awarded or that we should seek out of that 22 million? And then kind of subsequent to that, within whatever is granted to each region, will there be a formula that we apply to allocate by municipality, or the
So-
DIAs within a municipality?
Right. So we are going to go over that in detail with because it's a lot of information to kind of pack in here. But yes, there is a grant amount for each region, and I will go over that with you when
Oh,
we're
okay.
not
Sorry
were
about
not
that,
able-
Jenny Ray.
Yeah,
I'm
no
sorry.
worries. We weren't able to get that in this slide, but I do have a separate slide. So let me
Okay,
go through
I'll sit
this.
tight.
Yeah, and then I'll pull that slide up. Okay. Okay, let's go on.
Can
Oh,
I ask
sorry.
a quick question? Sorry, I had
Yes.
my hand raised, but it's hard without the camera. This is Alyssa Gordon from the Hartford Foundation. Are you able to just give a little more description when you talk about grassroots organization? Is there a specific budget ceiling or floor for organizations who would be re-granted to? Not the grant administrator, but the actual organizations in the community and the DIAs.
We do have criteria, and again, we were going to kind of save that for the folks that we are going to be working with. But I can tell you that the organizations that are applying, they must be from that community. They can't apply for funds from other communities. The total dollar amount is for the region. So up to that amount, anybody from those identified regions can apply. So the criteria for applying will be the maximum budget for the organization is no more than $3 million. So if they have a budget that's over 3 million, they're not eligible to apply for these grant funds. They have to be managing their program. So we may take an exception for a startup, but our criteria right now is you must be in operation for at least 18 months. So you must have been doing this. The only way we know how your program can be continued to be and is impactful is by knowing what you've already done. So startups are very difficult to come by. We are most definitely looking for organizations that are willing to collaborate with each other. So for instance, in our first pilot program, we had maybe in one municipality, we might have had 3 or 4 folks that are doing, let's say, expungement clinics. And we would really like to see those groups come together and apply for a pot of money that we could be funding one effort in the community for things like expungement. If you have programs that match together. So we had an example of in our first round, there was a group of for kids. They were doing like artistic work around art therapy. And so they were kind of designing stationery and doing all kinds of artwork. And then we found that there was a program where kids were writing to justice impacted youth. So they're writing to their peers in prison. And my staff, Vera, made the recommendation that, well, if you're doing the artwork with this stationery, why don't you turn the stationery over to the kids that are handwriting letters to kids who are incarcerated? So that would have been a really great synergy there to bring those two groups together to form one program and apply for one pot of money as opposed to applying for 2 pots of money. So collaboration is definitely in the mix here this time. The organizations, again, they need to be serving the DIA communities that they are applying to in business at least 18 months and a budget of less than $3 million. We don't want national organizations applying for these funds. We wanted to get it to the folks who traditionally would not and have not received financial assistance. And again, as we go through the grant makers and we start to have discussions on the actual, contract, we'll get into greater detail because all regions are different.
Hey, Jenny, it's Vera. Can I just say there's a question from Annie Troy. She wants to know, is there a special portal or link we should submit the proposal through? And the answer to that question is SEC programs at ct.gov. It's also on the NOFA site. That's SEC programs altogether at ct.gov. That's where you would submit your questionnaire and all supporting documents.
Thank you for that. So all of the information about submitting this, the timeline, the time frame, it is all in the NOFA on our website. Elsa, you had another question?
At least Alyssa.
Alyssa, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, sorry. I just lowered my hand. Sorry.
Okay. All right, can we go to the next slide? So the next steps, we will have another live webinar on March 21st at 12 o'clock. If you have any questions, you can submit those questions to secprograms@ct.gov specifically. We do have a general mailbox, but we ask you not to submit. We have set up a special email just for programs that the SEC runs, and we will receive, if it goes to the general mailbox, it could cause a delay in you getting a response or you missing the application deadline. If you submit to the SEC general mailbox at 11:59 on April 9th, you will be considered non-responsive. And again, the application deadline Tuesday, November 9th, 2024 at 11:59. The next slide, please. Okay, next slide. All right, so again, here is our website for those of you. And if you find that this is not something that you're interested in, if you would please share with your other grant making partners, it would be very helpful. We'd like to get a variety of applicants so that we can select the best and most closely aligned grant makers with the communities that we are responsible for. This webinar will be featured on our YouTube channel. So if you missed something today, you can go to our YouTube channel and find this actual live discussion. You can share the link also with folks that you may know. We ask that you follow us on Facebook. We do post a lot of our updated information on Facebook and on our website. So with that said, I believe that is the last slide. And if anyone has any questions at this time, we are happy to answer them. No? Okay. Well, I can give you, let me just say to my staff, do you guys have anything else that you would like to add? Did I miss anything?
No, not that I can tell.
No, I have nothing to add.
Okay. Well, there's
Oh,
one.
there's a question.
Yeah.
Ashley, is the other webinar a repeat or separate?
It's a repeat. We're giving 2 opportunities for folks to hear the same presentation that we made today.
And you are all very welcome.